What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We got a new member, Jones. He's our little boy.
So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see
This is the back of his head.
a cute little back of a head.
Impressive, right? Yeah, I know, right?
A little bald spot.
little bobble to the head.
What he'll do is in his bed sometimes before he gets to sleep, he'll just go side to side to side to side before he finds a comfortable spot. So no matter what we do, this bald spot's inevitable.
Yeah, and I'll say we committed, the one reason he's on is because he's awake and he's a baby. And we committed that when we started this, that we were going to be real with you guys and we're going to show you the good, the bad, the ugly, all of it. And this is just real. This is
life.
Got the little one, and he's not super happy right now with me. But
this is how it's gonna look. We know that at some point we'll be in an RV, we'll be traveling, and we're just gonna record along the way. So you'll hear what you hear, and that's how it is. So we want to start with some life updates, and I want to share, since Jones is here, our son. He's almost 2 months. He's days away from being 2 months, and he's smiling. He smiles intentionally. He's been doing that last month, and it's the best. So he smiles. I told everything about it.
okay. Yeah, so he smiles a ton. We love it. And we are really just coming today to talk to you guys about the week, about what runnings looked like, about what businesses look like, about what life has looked like with a 2-month-old running business, all the fun chaos that you guys all know and live out each day. Is there anything that you want to hit on just in the last week that you want to share about? Do you want to talk about what you were feeling last night? Or a couple nights ago?
No.
Oh, okay.
There's some things that we will keep to ourselves.
Oh, there are some things we'll keep to ourselves.
This podcast is not
That was one of them.
There's a common thing that there's, cancel culture. I don't care about that. I don't, who cares?
What does that mean?
It means if you say something and the whole world finds it controversial online, then they cancel you and they stop following you. They stop supporting you.
How was that to this?
I'm about to explain it.
Oh, all right.
So anyway, if I share everything about like my thoughts and our marriage and all the negative, like this is not a therapy session. I do not need to open up to that. So we will keep that private, and we will keep some things to ourselves because that protects us.
The general basis was just having kids and just feeling overwhelmed and just having some frustration and trying to figure that out together. That's all. That was always talking about. But anyways, so yeah, so. We want to talk about just in the last couple of weeks, Mel brought up, we had a new client come on. We're looking at another client coming on, huge deals. And when I was originally finishing, I think 900 days is when I did it. I recorded a video on social media, and I was like, oh man, look at all the people that come out for you achieving 900 days. It's amazing. And I recorded, the street, and there was nobody besides me. And so my point is, man, it took us over 3 years now to build up to a level where we are talking to sponsors, where we put enough skin and effort into the game to show people. Like I have one friend that's really good to me, and he always says like, man, just 1,000 days, when you hit 1,000 days, it just seems legit. And then I have another friend that said to me the other day, because I'm running around 100 miles a week, he said, man, just like when you get to 100 miles, it just seems like you're that crazy upper echelon of runners. And I don't, not that I feel like the upper, not that at all. But it's just interesting the levels that we get to. And it took 3 years to get there, or over 3 years. But it's been amazing. And
also just in business too, it took 3 years to feel comfortable and confident charging the amount that you do with a client that you sign.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you first start, you're like, I'm gonna give him a good deal because I don't know if I have the qualifications quite yet. I want to get some practice in, but still get some money, and you basically pay for it because you get so little in. But it's incredible just to see you thrive in the way that you do. You put so much into business that you can charge like a decent amount that feels worth it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a great amount. It's amazing to see the progress. And I said to her after we signed the client, because and this is a tip for anybody, but whenever you achieve something, celebrate it. Talk about it, engulf yourself in the enjoyment of it, of what goes really well. You can look at, what you can improve on, but always celebrate that and have some fun with it, discuss it, because that really ingrains it in your central nervous system and makes it more part of you believing you're that new person. Because all of us want to raise our levels up, if it's running, if it's being parents, if it's prices for your business. And I think this ties into just what we're talking about is there's 3 B's. So when you're looking at your beliefs, you want to, like, there's something called building, breaking, and bonding. The 3 B's: building, breaking, bonding. And that has to do with your beliefs. And there's this incredible story about a guy that gets locked into, or he works on the railroad station. And so, do you want to share?
No, I just realized what story you're telling. It's incredible. Listen up.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. So he works at the train station. And so, each night he closes down his particular rails. And so when they're keeping the boxcars there overnight, so they go through and they check them. So that night he goes through his line and he checks each boxcar. And he's looking, for anybody that's on there illegally, anybody that's trying to sleep on there, anything that's not working correctly, anything that's become unhinged or unhitched. And so he walks the line. And he gets to these box cars, and they're all like refrigerator and freezers. And so he starts to go through, and he notices one door's open. And so then he has to, because the door's open, he has to go and inspect it. So he walks in, and he's looking around, trying to search and see if anybody got in there. And then he hears this click, and he looks back, and the door closed behind him. And his first thing is like, oh my goodness, I got to get somebody's attention. I'm locked in here. So he goes over there, he's just pounding on the door, pounding, trying to get anybody else that's closing up to recognize that he's in there. An hour goes by, so he knows nobody is left there. So everybody goes home for the night. He's still in that freezer. And he starts, a couple hours go by, and he starts to feel like, man, I'm really getting cold. And then he thinks, man, I got to figure out some way to carve something in to the material, into the floor, so I can tell my family, hey, I miss you guys. I love you so much. This is my last words. I'm going to pass away now. And so he carves it in, and a few more hours go by, and he goes man, I just feel like I'm getting so cold. He starts to shiver. The next morning, crew comes in, and they have the same routine. They go through and they make sure every car is locked, everything's okay. And so then the morning guy goes through and checks. And he notices that the door is locked, but it's not locked from the outside. So he starts to open it, and he starts to investigate, and he finds the guy, and he's frozen to death. And so they take him to the autopsy. They say yep, that's how he died. He froze to death. Then they look at the boxcar, and they realize it was never plugged in. So it never went below 67 degrees. Which means, you can't freeze this to death at 67 degrees. But he convinced himself mentally for hour after hour. He dwelled on how cold he was getting. And when they did the autopsy, his organs had the same type of damage that organs would have that were frozen to death. That's how they determined he froze to death. And that's absolutely incredible, the power of your mind and the power of what you feed yourself. And that goes back to the importance of understanding and belief, of building, breaking, and bonding. And if you think about it on a 10-point scale, -10, I guess it's a 20-point scale, -10 all the way up to +10, then you have the breaking one is that negative, that's a -10. Then you have the building one that's at 0 or neutral feeling. And then you have one that you want that's bonding, that you're really strong and you love that belief about yourself. And that's a +10.
Can you just imagine getting to heaven and God saying, so let's work on your beliefs, because I think something went amiss in that last little bit. You really could have lived longer, but can you imagine just getting to heaven going, wait, this was all in my head?
I think one real interesting thing is, so there is an understanding that all this is in our head. Meaning whatever we envision the world to be through our central nervous system and through our eyes and through our brain and through our heart, that is what is represented back to us in the world. And I think we all know something that's the world's the worst. And then somebody else you talk to and they're the world's amazing. And those are the same world. We're living the same world, but they're creating it from their own perspective. And then I think one of my favorite talkings of when you die and you go to hell, when you die and you go to heaven, is you meet yourself, the best version of yourself. And then it's almost like in the video games where they measure your stats, And you have like a car and it's like, oh, it accelerates great, but the steering isn't that great. So you're almost like that. You meet yourself in heaven and God goes like, here's your version that you did on earth. Here's the new or here's your best version. And you get to see, and I think that is something that has been instilled in me for so long, just with personal development, is understanding that is the scariest part is you go home and you don't measure up. And that is simply if you are not willing to go through your beliefs. And the crazy part is I was running a group last night on the 3Bs. And one guy's like, oh man, I can totally do this. It only takes 3 minutes. I was like, yeah, that's the amazing part is we all think these things are something that takes forever.
What do you mean it only takes 3 minutes?
I'll get there. Yeah, I'll get there. And then we can do a little bit of the exercise even on this podcast. Yeah. Going back to just the scale of the -10 to +10 breaking, building, bonding. So you start with the -10, you want to break that belief because that's a -1. Feel worthy, right? Like I don't feel value enough. Like the reason people charge a certain price is because of the value and belief they have about themselves. So if you want to change the price in your business, if you want to become a better dad, the reason we act out the way we do is because of beliefs. So if we look at I've told Mel this before, and I don't know if you remember me saying this, but people often think, oh, you have limiting beliefs and you have like, I don't know, growth beliefs or good beliefs and bad beliefs. The truth of the matter is every belief you have is limiting. That's what it does. The belief limits you to wherever that belief is. It could be raising up to that belief, or you could be having a belief where you're just hitting the wall and you're stuck. Those are the real differences. But if you go like, man, I can charge a client $1 million. I'm just saying if that's your belief and you provide a product that's good enough to charge $1 million for, then that is your now limiting belief. He's so cute. I love that. We love his little noises. I don't even know if you guys can hear it, but he's making little cute baby noises. Anyway, so going back to that, if we look at the breaking, building, bonding, so if one that you want to break could be, man, I'm not worthy. Man, like, can I really do this? Man, I've never run. Man, I never have eaten healthy. Like I had a client recently, I'll give you a couple of his, and he was like, we were talking about running. And he said, yeah, my mom, like she never went and ran. And so we came up with 3 things and it was like, I have always been this way. My mama didn't do it. And it was like a joke. But when we had him run the half marathon, it broke those. But he had those beliefs about himself, which was my mama never. And I have always, quit on doing something. And then there was another one, but I'm not going to tell you that one. But those were the 2 beliefs. Is that helpful, like for breaking? So that's something you want to break about yourself.
I'm going to stand up in the background.
So if we look at one example where he brought up, so one of my clients brought up when we were running together, is that he had always been that way. And so that's something that you'll want to break. And when I say that way, he had always been the person that, starts running and then stops. Always. He was always that way. So first of all, those are one of my favorites because they're absolutes and you can easily break absolutes. But nonetheless, even if your belief isn't an absolute, this is just an example. So that's a belief you want to break. Then there's one that's bonding. So it could usually, a lot of times the bonding one is the opposite. Like I'm a runner. I can run anytime I want, however you want to build that. But so we'll go from his, man, I always quit, or I always, I've always never run. And then we go to his middle one where it's like, man, I can run every day. So that's something he wants to build. And then there's the third one, which is bonding. So that's something you already believe about yourself, something that's super powerful. And it could be simple. You could be like, man, I'm a great person. I treat people well. It doesn't matter what the belief is. It matters that it's strong and bonded in you. And you believe it's your core value almost. Like, man, I one of mine is I give my best. Right? I really do my best each and every day to give my best to myself, to the world, to my family. So if that's your one, that's the bonding one that you want to bond to because it's stronger than the rest of them, you can go through this experience and it's brain heart coherence. And then we'll go into the 3 R's, but these are the 3 B's. So if you go back to your breaking one and you put your hand over your heart, and we're not going to do it for a full 3 minutes here, but if you put your hand over your heart and you close your eyes and you take a deep breath in and you start to just deep breath in and out. And then as you start to take deep breaths in and out, focus on your hand over your heart. And if you centralize your thought and your focus to be brain-heart coherence, which means you're focused on your hand over your heart so the breathing is almost coming through your heart. That's the level you want to get to. And then you can do that for about 3 minutes. And as you're doing that, after about a minute, you'll start to pull in the belief you want to break. And what you'll do is while you're thinking about that belief, you'll start to go like, oh man, I always give up when I run. Oh, okay, cool. Now let's go back and find times where you don't always give up when you've run. Let's find the times you do run, because there's truth to that you do run. So if you start to look for holes that you can poke into your belief, that's super helpful. So that's the breaking part. The building and bonding part are, you think of the thing that's positive, you put your hand over your heart. You do the brain-heart coherence, so you do the hand over your heart, 3 minutes of breathing. And while you're doing that, you start to think about the one that you want to build. So you start to think about that, and then you start to look for recognition. And this is part of pulling in the 3 R's now, because recognition is key. If our reticular activating system, which is just simple way of saying our brain, you tell your brain, you prime your brain what to recognize, or your brain starts to recognize things and tell you what's important. It also tells you what's not important. So it tells you what to not focus on. If you're going to prime your reticular activating system, RAS, what you'll want to do is, as you're like building that belief, you'll want to start to go into the 3 minutes of breathing, think about the one that you are building. And as soon as you think about it, start to look at times in your life where you've done that, where you back up that new belief you're building. Because now you're building little checkpoints in your brain where your brain can recognize. It can sit there and go like, you know what? Chris, you did do that today. I would have never thought about it, but we slowed down and we gave ourselves 3 minutes, and now I can start to recognize even times in my past that I never gave myself credit for, but I have been doing, and now that reinforces the new belief, and it builds that belief. And then if you really want to, you can do another set of 3 minutes. And you can go into the bonding one. And what I like to do is I like to think of the bonding one, and I like to think of the building one. Because again, whatever neural pathways fire together, wire together in your brain. So the more you can think about the one that you're bonded to, that you just love and it feels so good and you're so attached to, and then you can think about it, and then you can start to think about the one you're building at the same time, both back and forth, will start to fire and wire together. And that way, the one that's already reinforced and so strong, every time you think of that one, now the building one will be attached, so it instantly gives it the same feeling to your central nervous system. So really, that's the biggest thing with so that's the 3 B's, and that's how you do the exercise. Now I'm going to say the 3 R's, and these are simple. And I will tell you, if what I said sounded hard, go back and rewind it, because I made it way too complicated. Hand over your heart, breathing. If you're breaking, think about it. Start to poke holes in it. Hand over your heart. If you're building, think about the belief. Then think about times where you've recognized that because you've done it and you can reinforce it. And then if you're looking at the bonding one, 3 minutes over your heart, just makes you feel good. Or you tie it to the one you're building and you think about them back and forth, and they both get stronger. So those are really the 3 ways of doing it. That was the 30-second way to do it. The 3 R's are reminding. So to create a new habit, you have to remember to do the new habit. You have to remind yourself after you didn't do the habit. Oh, hey, here's the new habit we're doing. So remember to do it. If you don't remember to do it, then you remind yourself after you've already not done the habit. You go to bed, you wake up the next day, you go, dang it. But instead go, I'm just going to remind myself, this is what I'm doing. And then start to recognize every time you do it. And like I said about signing the new client and how we celebrate that, celebrate your recognition in the same way. Journal it. Tell your wife. Like, tell some friends. Like, man, I'm doing this. Because as soon as your brain gets primed and knows that's important, your brain puts that file to the front of your brain. And your brain says, this is important. And your heart and your brain connect when it's something that you're truly passionate about. And that is, it's an unbreakable force when you really get that locked in to achieving whatever you want. To being, as you said, you don't want to die. What did you say? You don't want to die and then...
I don't want to die and go, my beliefs killed me.
Yeah. Like, I don't want to die, and like she said, I don't want to die and have my beliefs kill me. So if you look at that, look wherever those blind spots are. That's the reason so many people need a coach or a friend or somebody good to them to help them see the blind spots, because it's often we miss those. But find those blind spots. Sit with yourself. Take time. And this is going back to just what happened even from the week. And I hope you can get back in here. I know it's hard with Jones, but I don't want this to be like a monologue of me. But there's just so many things. And even yesterday I was sitting home I was sitting home and I was just thinking, what have we really got out of the last, 4 weeks roughly, or even the last week? And then I look back and I go, oh man, there's so many things. I even just did it right before we started the podcast. I was like, oh, I forgot I did that. So there's just so many things to recognize that give you value in your life, that make you feel more valuable. And those are ways to win in your life, is to start to recognize, slow down to the speed of wisdom. As you guys can tell, as quickly as I talk, it's hard for me to slow down. But it's been one of the most valuable tools I've learned, is slow down to the speed of wisdom. And if you believe in the Spirit and God, everybody says the Spirit speaks to you quietly, which means you need to be slowed down and everything tuned down, not tuned up. And the recognition is the key to fuel your success, to keep you going. Because if we start a new habit, if we're trying to break an old belief or a habit about ourselves, none of us are going to continue if there's no fuel. And the recognition is the fuel to the jet to have it take off. So recognition is the key. And it's one of the things, like, if you can't tell, I coach on and promote so much. Recognize. And it goes back to what Melanie said of having the view of the world, and just what post-materialism talks a lot about now is our view of the world shapes the world much more than the world is shaped and then we view it. And so if we're looking at it, it's so important to understand and prime our brain to recognize what we want to see in the world, what we want to see from the world, what we want to see and understand ourselves to be, and what we want God to be in our life, is understanding and how we start to prime our brain and tell ourselves what to recognize. And it's absolutely, I love it. It's a game changer. Like this stuff is so simple and so easy, yet it is a game changer. I told my new client, am I just going way too crazy now? I told my new client that we could do a ton of things together, yet the recognition of what you want to do and then the implementation or execution of that are the two most important things we'll do together. Okay, so as we said, this is real life. We're having fun. We're living our life. We got kids. She had to leave the room. He's having a tough time, and she needs to feed him. So keep this PG. I really just want to end with this because I think this is one of those amazing stories. And the reason this is so profound is because sometimes when we look at creating new habits, when we look at recognizing something new, man, so many of the times for us, it comes from a pain that pushes us to recognize that, a pain that changes our action or our habits. And there's this incredible story. And the reason I tell you this is because, hey, if you can find some pain, it's great. It's a great push, right? Recognition of the new thing is like the pool. It's the enjoyment. Ooh, I'm attracted to that. I want that, right? I'm attracted to it, so I'm moving towards it. Then there's the pain, which is the push, which pushes you out of your old ways. And there's this incredible story about a guy that had his beliefs challenged quickly and had to come up with a game plan and change quickly as well. So there's this gentleman, an incredible guy. He's up on Mount Everest. I personally always think if somebody's climbing Mount Everest, they are an overachiever. So they're probably crushing their life. This guy goes up, he's climbing on Mount Everest, and he's up with his guide. Him and his guide are up there by themselves. And they're coming to this part where they have to put crampons, which are those hooks or like the teeth that go on your shoes to dig into the ice. And then they have the hooks. And so, so they're starting to go up that, and then they have carabiners because they're going to clip in every so often for safety. And so his guide's going in front of him, and his guide is, looking down, guiding him, telling him like, okay, put your crampon here, put your foot here. And as he looks down, and the guy that's the main guy of the story is below him, his guide hears a pop, 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 3 pops, and starts to fall because the metal pieces that were into the ice that holds the crampions popped out. And now his weight is plummeting towards the other guy. He looks up, and all he can see is his guide's body falling towards him. Boom, they collide. And at that moment, his leg, the guy that's, being led up there, his leg gets cut. Right on his upper thigh. It's a huge cut. And so they have to now hunker together, right? Because they crash into each other. He cuts his leg. Now they have to make a decision. How do we get you back down with this major cut and get us both back down safe? So they make a quick decision like, okay, the guide is going to go down because he's going to be fast. He's going to go down. He's going to get help. They're going to helicopter up. They're going to get this guy off the hill and save his life. Because, if you stay up on out overnight, most likely you're going to die. And from this cut, you're going to either bleed out or you want to be able to make it back. You're going to freeze and die. So those aren't great odds. So the guide starts. He's just hustling. He's hustling down the hill. This guy is like, man, it's really cold up here. I'm by myself. I'm going to have to devise a plan. He looks back way in the distance and he starts to see these clouds forming. And they start to get darker and closer. He's like, well, this is not a good sign. Certainly, this is going to be tough to get a helicopter up here with these clouds. This may be my last night. We're talking a lot about death today. I just realized that. But anyways, so this guy is like, man, all right, to stay warm, to stay mentally focused, forever, however long this storm goes through, if I can live through this. And he goes, 100 windmills, 100 windmills, 100 windmills, 100 crunches, 100 crunches. Because again, he's hanging there. These are the things he can do. Windmills. So arms and then crunches. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Hours go by. The storm's getting closer. Boom, 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Storm is running over him, pushing him against the ice, freezing him. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. 12 hours go by. Storm's still there. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Guy's still alive. 24 hours go by. Storm is past. Guy's up there still. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Helicopter flies up. They get the guy off the hill. He goes home. He survives. Guy saves his life. The helicopter people save his life. But he made a quick decision that day. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Didn't have any belief that he could survive that. Like in the beginning. Right? Didn't have any plan to survive that. But instantly the pain changed. I got to change this game. Can I stay up for 24 hours? Can I do 100 windmills, 100 crunches? Created a new belief and version of himself. And then recognized, man, I'm doing it. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Recognition, I'm doing it. What are we doing? Okay, 100 windmills. Remind yourself. Yep, okay, we're doing 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Man, you know what? I didn't expect this. But let me tell you, I got a new belief. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. I can do this. I can stay alive. Stays alive for over 24 hours. They rescue him off the hill. Find the thing you're pursuing and let it pull you. Let it attract you. You attract it. Find the pain. Make it real. The one you want to break. Make the pain real. Give yourself, your brain a reason. Prime your heart to get rid of that thing. And when I say that get rid of that, I mean find acceptance, find healing in it, find the allowing to let it go, and find the best version of yourself. No longer have to hold on to the limited version, the limited, not you, but really you're still holding on to because it's the old you and you really just need to recognize the new you version. 100 windmills, 100 crunches. Go find your beliefs. Recognize your new you. Keep putting deposits in the bank of the new you, showing you who you really are. I love you guys. Thank you for joining us. Mel will be back on the next podcast, I promise, because she's always the better half and she's more fun. So I'll bring her back next week. Okay, guys. Bye-bye.